Hello, and thank you for joining today's webinar with Panorama Consulting Group in conjunction with Sage. I am here today with Mike Stein with Sage ERP Systems, and he'll be walking through some of the topics today of manufacturing challenges and opportunities in 2021. Mike, thank you for joining us today. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure, and thank you, Samuel. It's great to be here, and I really appreciate our audience joining us today. I'm Mike Stein, and I've been in the enterprise technology space for over a dozen years, developing business strategy for brands like Infor and Red Prairie. At Sage, I lead the X3 product marketing efforts in the US with a focus on the medium segment market. So I basically help drive the go-to-market strategy for the X3 enterprise solution that's designed to meet the business needs and challenges across the manufacturing, distribution, and discrete industries. I'm originally from the beautiful city of Dayton, Ohio, but have lived in the greater Atlanta area for some time now. And Samuel, if it's okay with you, I'm going to go ahead and give a brief overview of Sage and Sage X3.
Absolutely, thank you.
So for those of you who are not familiar with Sage, we're a global organization that publishes a diverse portfolio of software solutions that manage accounting, HR, construction, and enterprise systems, to name a few, that are offered in the cloud, on-prem, or both. We're supported by a powerful ecosystem, and what I mean by that is we work with an extensive network of partners who contribute to our mutual growth and our ambition to build customers for life. We also have upwards of 500 independent software vendors, or ISVs, who add further functionality and vertical customization, and we have dozens of strategic alliances with some of the biggest names in technology. Now let's quickly look at Sage X3. Sage X3 is an enterprise solution that provides faster, more intuitive, and tailored business management solutions than conventional ERP. And when we say faster, I'm referring to faster process cycle times, faster inventory turns, faster customer response time, and faster insight into cost and performance. Intuitive means the better management of distributed operations, easier access to data and collaboration, and simpler IT management. And tailored speaks to our various deployment options, flexible capacity, flexible configuration, and customization and evolution. And finally, Sage X3 is designed for organizations looking to thrive and retain their competitive advantage by increasing their agility and embracing change at speed.
Awesome, thank you for that overview, Mike. I'd like to really just kind of jump in so we're not, boring our listeners to the topic at hand. So, what are the main challenges facing manufacturers right now that Sage is seeing, as well as just the entire environment in general?
Yeah. So before I address that, I'd just quickly like to take a moment to discuss the current environment that will set the landscape. I think we can all agree that 2020 has been a year like no other in recent history, and the U.S. manufacturing industry has felt the impact for sure. Before the pandemic hit, the industry was working to regain the momentum it had reached after the 2008 recession. But after the first wave of pandemic-driven shutdowns, segment recoveries for various manufacturers have definitely been uneven. Looking ahead to this year, the recovery, quite honestly, may take a bit longer to reach pre-pandemic levels. According to recent research, reeling from the effects of a global pandemic-driven shutdown, U.S. industrial production and U.S. total factory orders saw a steep decline last April, followed by stifled improvement. The current U.S. industrial production index has also taken a substantial dip from its pre-pandemic level, and production order levels are still below 2019 levels. But fortunately, the trajectory of the decline has slowed. 2020 has also experienced a significant dip in manufacturing employment levels, largely due to forced shutdowns in the early days of the pandemic and suppressed orders. With April recording the lowest employment levels since 2010, despite recent gains, as much of the country's manufacturing base is back in operation, if you will, employment levels in October were still lower than in February. All of these indicators have created an environment of ongoing uncertainty, but are still showing a very positive outlook on business. So to answer your question, which was, what are the main challenges facing manufacturers right now? I think it's threefold. The potential need to change your business models in the face of adversity. Next would be excellence in the area of project management. And finally, the ongoing need for supply chain visibility. As far as the potential need to change your business model goes, I'm referring to the fact that most organizations plan for disruptions to resources and processes, but they don't necessarily recognize that business models can be just as big a threat to the continuity of their operations. For example, many companies have been dealing with this for the last decade as the growth of e-commerce has changed their path to market. But for most companies, this has been a gradual change that has given them time to test and study. The key is to ensure that their business model is as resilient to outside disruptions as it is to the rest of the business. So that said, organizations need to assess critical IT infrastructure and software systems by defining their current business model, identifying uncertainties and potential business disruptors, assessing the impact, designing changes, and executing those changes. And of course, modern technology plays a critical role in this. A major piece of this is their various channels they leverage in their operations. I've been seeing firsthand how a number of organizations that have traditional channels, such as retail, wholesale, DSD, et cetera, that have now been looking heavily into e-commerce solutions due to the pandemic, as I mentioned previously, but at greater speed. This is more than having an e-commerce capability, though. It may impact the way you plan and schedule as your order sizes may decrease, but frequency increases. And as you can imagine, this is a very strategic and uncharted course that requires trusted advisors that can help them to rapidly implement a solution to make up for lost ground. And overall, I think we'll be discussing this topic for quite some time. The profound impact of the pandemic is far and wide and absolutely has the potential to be better managed with modern intelligent solution that it can adapt to future needs. And next, when we look at excellence in the area of project management, it's an area that organizations are always trying to optimize for faster response time and lower cost. And within manufacturing, it's a specific type of project management, really, one in which project management tools and processes have been adapted for the unique challenges faced by teams who are initiating, planning, executing, monitoring, and controlling and closing projects in manufacturing-based industries. Manufacturing project management is truly the most effective when the project manager and members of the project team have access to resources that streamline the production process, enhance regulatory and compliance, and provide managers with insight into the current state of production and inventory levels. For this reason, manufacturing project management makes use of operational tools like material resource planning, MRP, systems, and MRP operations management principles. So ideally, project management capabilities are either a core capability of the ERP solution, which is fairly common for a manufacturing-focused ERP, or it's integrated in ERP. This helps better manage costs and planning. And evidence shows that manufacturing project management can have a significant impact on the success of projects, particularly supported by robust integrated software solutions. And things like improved team flexibility, more responsive risk management, lower error rates, and faster and more cost-effective processes. And finally, the third tier to the question and answer is, there's the ongoing need for supply chain visibility. Over the years, we've been hearing terms like SCV and glass pipeline. Call it what you like. We're really talking about knowing what's going on in your supply chain. For many companies, this is simply basic planning tools that take into account typical lead times so as to minimize costs for expediting shipments or overtime. To be more responsive in today's environment, though, it's the ability of parts, components, or products in transit to be tracked from the manufacturer to their final destination. The end goal is to improve and strengthen the supply chain by making data readily available to all stakeholders, including the customer. Over the last few years, numerous organizations have experienced unplanned supply chain disruptions caused by abnormal weather events, natural disasters, factory fires, and other forms of supply chain disruption. So how do you really go about achieving supply chain visibility? Well, there's some core principles that technology can help organization with. Things like order receipt by supplier, status of raw materials to complete order, supplier's manufacturing program and status, delivery date from supplier, shipping details, customers and regulatory information, current order status, especially with regard to actual progress to plan. It sounds pretty simple, but many organizations lack the modern tools needed to do this effectively.
But that's definitely a lot of what Panorama has also seen, Mike. So I'm glad we're on the same page in that. I noticed there's something you've said many times, and you've used the word modern, and that's a term that's going around. It's like modern ERP. So what is your view of a quote unquote modern ERP, and what are the hallmarks of a modern ERP system? And do you think the differentiators have changed over the last 6 to 8 months as the world has gone through what it's gone through?
Yeah, great question. I kind of have a few responses to that again. I think first is the notion of intelligent ERP, or what we call iERP. I equate that to modern ERP, a highly customizable with flexible deployment options technology, and advanced BI. And I could speak this entire duration about advanced BI, but it's really those three things. And I think it comes down to, as a truly modern ERP solution that allows for tighter supply chain management, including integration, operations, procurement, and logistics, greater data visibility, and sharper KPIs, spanning systems, machines, customers, partners, and vendors, and better agility for exception management, supply chain, and other major disruptions.
All right, Mike. A lot of what you just said reflects on a piece that I read on your take of the topic of building a strong foundation. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
I sure can. It's something that I've been speaking to for a while now. And building from a strong foundation, I'm specifically talking about the notion of intelligent ERP, or iERP. I think we all know that ERP market is shifting, and the truth of the matter is that organizations really need to stop investing in antiquated legacy ERP solutions that are out there and start looking into more robust, innovative, responsive, and intelligent ERP systems to address their unique challenges. This new generation of intelligent ERP is really the future of the business enterprise, in my opinion. The intelligence comes from more information and data, in-context learnings, and the application of the knowledge obtained to deliver better business outcomes. And iERP has certain key characteristics as well, things like common data pools, customization, and adaptive user experiences. And manufacturing enterprises, for example, can optimize across all resources with iERP systems and applications. The business will ultimately improve productivity, reduce additional layers of resources and employees, technology, and processes, and altogether improve its time to market, which we all know is a distinctive competitive advantage. So now let's look at food manufacturing, for example. I know this is a bit of an eye chart, but we all know the fundamental role of ERP is central to managing and recording formulations and recipes, executing quality of batches, providing complex gravity calculations, streamlining production, and strengthening customer management. Other manufacturing technologies can benefit from the data ERP handles, including management execution systems, for example. This is amplified by the fact they're supporting technologies that enable seamless collaboration and foster decision-making, such as advanced analytics, which can help manufacturers to model raw materials processing and take efficiency to a new level of accuracy. Final point on iERP is that of resiliency, meaning that in times of disruption like we're in today, resilience is key to succeeding. Given the interconnected nature of today's global supply chain and expansive network of production facilities, warehouses, and transportation hubs, manufacturing supply chains are more likely to encounter disruptions or breakdowns at much more touch points across their supply network. For businesses to be truly resilient and to be good at avoiding disruption, regardless of the form it takes, it's imperative that it first looks at its own practices and sets in place the appropriate policies, processes, and tools. For some, it may be about improving inventory performance. For others, it may be about visibility into mixed factory networks. And for still others, it may be about supplier diversification or even the reconfiguration of production. Now, I said I could talk about this at length, but I do want to cover about BI. I think we're all familiar with BI and how it can absolutely benefit an organization, but many have yet to fully utilize its true potential, or possibly have not even yet implemented it within their ERP. In its purest sense, BI is basically a set of technologies and architecture that can help in transforming raw data into more relevant and meaningful information. and it mainly focuses on the storage and retrieval of data by using technologies such as query engines and data cubes. The main purpose of BI is to help interpret vast amounts of data and measure past performance, which is critical in the challenging business environment and can truly give them a competitive edge over others. A few of the key benefits from advanced BI are the consolidation of data from different sources, deliver actionable intelligence, improved inventory management, cut down labor expenses, all parts of a modern ERP. So of those, I think actionable intelligence is the one of the most tremendous value. Users can gain access to information in their databases, along with new data, which is created by devices, sensors, apps, server logs, and geolocation coordinates through BI software. The actionable intelligence derived from this data assists companies in taking decisions and enable business transformation. And then finally on this topic, there's the need for flexible deployment options. As I've mentioned, modern ERP solutions must be highly customizable, but they also need to have flexible deployment options. I'm specifically talking about on-prem, right, multi-tenant, and single-tenant SaaS. We found that this better accommodates the needs of market organizations. You know, the vendors are always talking cloud this, cloud that, but every week we come across customers, that require on-prem given their certain situation.
Okay. Well, Mike, I want to go back a little bit. You're talking about the current challenges in the manufacturing space, and we've seen this throughout history. You know, World War II. You know, there's shortage of copper, and you get the steel pennies, and they have to change how they do processes. And just most recently, I'm sure a lot of our listeners are aware of the shortage of toilet paper that happened in 2020. What do you think the challenges and practices that these manufacturing companies or just the manufacturing space in general, practices that they had to have changed or improved on that may fade out when, you know, perhaps the pandemic recedes, versus may become more permanent, and as far as practice and dynamics, because it's proved useful?
Yeah, another great question. And you know, I think it's the need for continued flexibility with customers and suppliers with their paths to market is absolutely critical, Samuel. In order to come back stronger, companies should reimagine their business model, quite honestly, as they return to full speed. You know, the moment is not to be lost. Those who step up their game, for lack of better words, quite honestly, will be better off and far more ready to confront the challenges and opportunities of the next normal than those who do not. Organizations need to focus on strategic areas like recovering revenue, right? Think about that, rebuilding operations, rethinking the organization, and accelerating the adoption of digital solutions. And I'd like to touch on two of those briefly. Let's look at rebuilding operations. The coronavirus pandemic has radically changed demand patterns for products and services across sectors, while exposing points of fragility in global supply chains and service networks. You know, at the same time, it has been striking how fast many companies have adapted, creating radical new levels of visibility, agility, productivity, and customer connectivity. So now leaders are asking themselves, how can we sustain this performance? As operations leaders seek to reinvent the way they work and thus position themselves for the next normal, some themes emerge. Successful companies will redesign their operations and supply chains to protect against a wider and more acute range of potential shocks. In addition, they will act quickly to rebalance their global asset base and supplier mix. The once prevalent global sourcing model and product-driven value chains has steadily declined as new technologies and consumer demand patterns encourage regionalization of supply chains. The other point I wanted to expand upon is accelerating the adoption of digital solutions. Over the past year, there has been a transformation in the way we interact with loved ones, do our work, travel, get medical care, spend leisure time, and conduct many of the routine transactions of life. These changes have accelerated the migration to digital technologies at stunning scale and speed across every sector. Business leaders are faced some fundamental challenges. but one that consumer behavior and demand patterns have changed significantly and will continue to do so. Another is that how the economy lurches back to life will differ from country to country and even city to city. To address these challenges, leaders will need to set an ambitious digital agenda and deliver it quickly in order of 2 to 3 months, actually, is what I feel, as opposed to the previous norm of a year or more. They need to refocus digital efforts to reflect changing customer expectations, use data to better manage operations, accelerate tech modernization, and increase the speed and productivity of digital solutions.
So what you're saying here is that if they don't change and get up with the times and utilize these new technologies, um, they could experience a permanent disruption and potential, failure in their business. Am I wrong on that, or?
No, you're absolutely right. Now is the perfect timing to be looking at new modern solutions that are going to fit the future.
Okay. So what you're talking about is a business transformation or digital transformation that's kind of been thrown around since I want to say since 2016, and as far as the term digital transformation, but as far as business transformation, that's really what it is. What do you think the hallmarks are for a company culture that encourages that transformation when there is that disruption?
So in my mind, what we're really talking about here is a system of shared meaning held by members that distinguishes the organization from other organizations. And what I mean like that is things like innovation and risk taking, the degree to which employees are encouraged to be innovative and take risks, attention to detail, the degree to which employees are expected to exhibit precision, analysis, and attention to detail, outcome orientation. You hear this a lot. The degree to which management focuses on results or outcomes rather than on technique and processes. People orientation, the degree to which management decisions take into consideration the effect of outcomes on people within the organization. Team orientation, my organization is very much team-based. I'm sure yours is as well. The degree to which work activities are organized around teams rather than individuals. Aggressiveness, kind of goes back to what we were just talking about. The degree to which people are aggressive and competitive rather than easygoing. Speed. Instability, the degree to which organizational activities emphasize maintaining the status quo in contrast to growth.
Okay. You mentioned innovation is going to be one of the important things. Can you give us an example of something that's kind of cool and innovative that manufacturers are doing currently with their data?
Yeah, so this really ties back to BI. I know I said I would talk a lot about it, but in my mind, it's really back to BI. And a good
It's the
example,
most important thing.
it absolutely is. The organizations are sitting on these tremendous amounts of data pools, if you will. And a good example is how manufacturers and process-based industries are using advanced analytics to increase yields and reduce costs. Bottom line. Manufacturers have an abundance of operational and shop floor data that is being used for tracking that can be used to streamline their manufacturing value chains by finding the core determinants of process performance and then taking action to continually improve them. And that's really what it is. A strong BI tool will give you the dashboard. You can drill into it all day long, but you've got to take action. Otherwise, it's a report, if you will.
Yeah, you get into what do they call that? Analysis paralysis, trying to make the decision but never actually making it or taking the action.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So all in all, I think this, was extremely informative for our manufacturing industry clients. What would you say if you were to say, hey, you need to take away this one golden nugget out of this webinar? What do you want them to take away?
Yeah, stepping away from the technology, if you will, and giving it a personal touch. I just want to say that we're all in this together. We've got people in attendance that are at every different stage of what's going on with the pandemic, various degrees of strategy that are taking place, et cetera. And in these challenging times, we want to ensure that we provide companies with the visibility, flexibility, and efficiency to better manage their finances, operations, and people, and freeing them from the burden of admin so they can spend more time doing what they love. Whether you're opening back for business, right? Or opening new doors, expanding a channel, or need to stay on top of your cash flow when you need it most. Make decisions with confidence for what comes next, or get the insights you need to help you back to business. That's really the key takeaway I would share.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Mike. I know you're a busy man, but we'll catch up and we'll have to do another one of these.
I would love to.
All right. In the meantime, for our listeners, if you have any questions or would like to get some follow-up information regarding this topic or any others, you can contact us at panorama-consulting.com. You can call us at 720-515-1377. You can also contact our Director of Innovation directly. His name is Alan Salton, and that is Alan.Salton, S-A-L-T-O-N, at panorama-consulting.com. And everyone, have a great rest of your day.